full week of great content, which includes webinars. I believe there's another webinar tomorrow at noon, and then two on Wednesday, one at 8 in the morning. And both of those are going to be fantastic to attend. So would love to see you there as well. Before we start, I do want to thank some of our incredible partners and sponsors. Without them, we wouldn't be able to run these events and deliver the content that we've been delivering with our podcast called Spotlight and so on and so forth. So thank you to all these partners here who've helped the Calgary Marketing Association do their thing, which is great. And speaking of doing our thing, really, our vision with the Calgary Marketing Association is to make Calgary known as a world-class marketing community. And that includes sharing insights, celebrating the fantastic work in our city, and trying to increase our reach in terms of Calgary's marketing community on a global scale. So thanks for becoming a member and for participating with the Calgary Marketing Association. One thing we need to talk about is the glue up thing. So when you sign up as a member, you should be able to navigate to memberships to see your active membership. And then there's some things that you need to do in order to sign up here. I know signing up for these webinars has been a little bit tough for some people because they hadn't done all of this yet. I'll send an email out later on this week that kind of explains what we're supposed to do in order to get the most out of our membership. But basically, if you want to screenshot this right now, if you haven't done so yet, this is what you need to do in terms of getting your membership going in GlueUp. And then we have a survey. It's trends time. So our 2025 trends survey, it takes 10 minutes. We'd love to get your opinions on a few things and some of the insights around what we're doing and also marketing as a whole. So if you want to scan this QR code, 10 minutes is all we need from you to fill out this survey. I believe, Mark, is there like a contest of some sort that we're running?
Yeah, we're going to do a couple of things. We've got tickets available for the Trends event itself, so a few people are going to win tickets to that. And if we get up to 100 completions, then we're going to have 5 sets of $20 gift cards that we're going to hand out. So it'll be a random draw. No preference to who gets it, but yeah, feel free to fill that. And it takes about 15 minutes, just so people know.
I say 10 because I like to overpromise and underdeliver, I guess.
Fair enough.
Yeah. And then the webinars that we have. So today is a fantastic panel that we have here, and we're going to be talking about future-ready marketing teams. Tomorrow is going to be one on data privacy. Wednesday, we've got two, one at 8 in the morning. And that's what that group out of Sweden, right? Is that correct?
No, this is the guy from Ireland, Paul Durban.
Ireland, sorry. Yeah. Sweden, Ireland, potato, I guess. Yeah, there's two great webinars that are going to be happening on Wednesday and Thursday as well. And then, of course, on Friday is going to be a nice one too. And then we've got some other in-person events as well, including a workshop with Carl Ye around AI. And that's going to be on Wednesday at 1:30. You could still sign up for that. I believe there's only 15 spots available. I don't know actually how many spots have been taken, but if I were you, I'd sign up now because they're going to get taken pretty quick here. And then at Platform Calgary, we have a panel discussion I'm really excited about around go-to-market strategy. And that's happening on Thursday, October 9th from 4:30 to 8 p.m. You can get your tickets for that on the Calgary CMA website as well. Just go to the events page. And then today, we've got this great panel, and I'm going to throw it over to Kate Ryan, who works for Sport Check, who's going to take over here. So yeah, thank you so much for taking this over, Kate, and I'm looking forward to this discussion.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. And thank you to all of the listeners and the watchers for spending your lunchtime hour with us. We are very excited and we have an amazing panel here with us. I'll do a little bit of an intro on myself and then I'll pass it to them to kind of go through a little bit about them. Uh, like Derek had said, my name is Kate Ryan. I'm the AVP of Marketing for SportCheck. I have 15 years of experience with SportCheck and 10 years of that managing teams. So definitely lots of change, lots of high pressure scenarios, and motivating the team to ensure that they can continue to be agile. So was really excited when I saw this topic, and even more excited when I saw who was on the panel. So I'll pass it over to Neil and he'll do a little intro on himself.
Thank you so much, Kate. Good afternoon, everybody. And I am honored to be standing digitally alongside my fellow panelists. So I'm really looking forward to the conversation. My name is Neil Bazana Adams. I am currently an inclusive workforce specialist working with the CanWin initiative. And basically what I do is I go and chat with employers about inclusion and how to increase a organization's capacity and confidence with hiring diverse talent. My background is actually in history, but I couldn't get a job in history in British Columbia, so I pivoted very hard into employment coaching and youth employment, and I've used sort of education skills to wind up in this field that I'm in. So yeah, but a little bit about me, and also I'm a member of the Calgary Philharmonic Chorus and the Calgary Civic Symphony. So if you want me to plug any upcoming performances, I will gladly do so.
Love that. Thanks, Neil. We'll pass it over to Jason next.
Yeah, hi. Thank you for having me on this today. If you hear some noise behind me, I'm caught in the middle of traffic lane, so I'm taking this lunch hour from a coffee shop. I'm Jason Wellman, Division President of Pod Marketing. Pod Marketing is celebrating its 10th year this year. We're a Calgary digital agency startup. We primarily focus in three industries: optometry, dentistry, and senior living. And I have the honor of supporting our senior living division as a citizen bed. And my background, I've worked in media and advertising prior to moving into the digital agency space. But we've been a fast growing organization over those 10 years, averaging 20% growth at least over those 10 years. So the topic of resiliency and handling that when everything's changing around you and you're causing some of that change made this a pretty interesting topic.
Awesome. Welcome. And last but not least, I'd like to introduce Sam, and over to you.
Hey, awesome. Thanks. My name is Samantha, and I'm a recruitment manager with a small boutique recruitment firm called AIP Connect. AIP stands for Anything is Possible. And we're a small team of 7 women spread out all across Canada. And we have been around for 20 years as an organization. We do a lot of recruitment across marketing and communications. That's definitely our bread and butter, but we'll do a lot of recruitment across all different types of industries and roles from entry level to C-suite. Definitely love the people side of recruitment. Getting to know it really makes someone tick and understanding a company's goals and finding that perfect match and what will click. So at AIP, we focus more so on relationship recruitment. There's definitely transactional recruitment and relationship recruitment, but we find it's really just not about filling a role. It's about building long-term partnerships and helping both clients and candidates succeed. So based in Calgary, and really excited to be part of the conversation here today.
Awesome. Thank you. So as you can see, we have a really, really strong panel, bringing in lots of different perspectives and points of view. Mark had dropped in the chat. Feel free to drop any questions as we go through, and we'll make sure to get them at the end. But we're going to start off here with kind of unpacking a couple of the topics of what we're here to talk about, of building a resilient marketing team. And also how to ensure that we're future-proofing our teams when we take a look at them as well, with everything that's changing in the landscape around us. So I'm going to start with Sam and kind of throwing her the first question. So, what does a resilient, future ready marketing team look like, and why is that so critical in today's workplace?
Yeah, so from the outside looking in, as a recruiter, we're really seeing the most resilient and future ready marketing teams do have a few things in common. One being they're adaptable, so being able to pivot quickly when priorities shift, as they really have been over the past few years since COVID. It's definitely been a bit of a roller coaster. So, even when new tech hits the market, a lot of AI chat lately, being able to work cross functionally, stay curious, and understand that marketing doesn't live in just a silo anymore. So what really stands out is that teams are blending creative and analytical thinkers and can build a culture where people feel safe to test and fail and learn. And that's what really allows them to keep evolving. From a hiring perspective, companies are really focused on transferable skills like communication and critical thinking and learning agility. Those have become just as important as technical expertise. A lot of screening now comes down to how is the person able to communicate? Do they have those basic soft skills? It's really important because the marketing is moving really fast. So teams that can adapt and collaborate and stay curious are the ones that will not only survive the change, but just thrive through it. So, yeah.
That's great. Thank you. All right, I'm coming to you next, Neil. I'd love to hear from you of the biggest misconception about resilient teams that you've encountered in your experience.
So as I think about this, I think the thing that automatically springs to my mind is that we automatically assume that resiliency is going to look like us. And that is strictly not the case. And actually, it was a couple of things that I noted down when Samantha was talking that were like really resonated with me, like the building of partnerships and the pivoting quickly. I 100% agree and want to sort of build on what you were saying, Sam. So for me, I understand resiliency as it's an ongoing process. So we're never going to get to a point where it's like, congratulations, you have 100% resiliency. It's kind of like that going to the gym. You've got to continually put the work in and you've got to put the effort in. Now, from my perspective, when I'm thinking about resiliency, I'm naturally looking to the disabled community or the neurodiverse community because for me, building partnerships and being able to pivot quickly also means that we as employers, as co-workers, we need to be able to pivot quickly to communication styles and ways of thinking that don't necessarily exist in the core data set. So I'm influenced by a professor from OCAD University in Toronto, and she mentioned on a UN panel actually that it's very easy to focus on the problem solving abilities and resiliency within that core skill set. But we've also got to be very aware of all of the isolated data points around that center. And that's where innovation is truly going to come from. So in order to be resilient and in order to do exactly what Sam is advocating for, and that building of partnerships and pivoting quickly, we also need to have a diverse ability to communicate with as many people with as many lived experiences as possible. And so in my opinion, it's incumbent upon us to bring diverse perspectives and perspectives from people who have natural resiliency because they are living and working in a world that wasn't necessarily built for them or isn't necessarily operating with their strengths and talents in mind. So if we are bringing those individuals into our teams and we are specifically and intentionally looking at with a strength-based lens, and going beyond some of those initial awkward communication moments, but then working on how do I communicate better with 25% of the Canadian population to build that connection, and then to move beyond where communication skills might be failing us, to see the innate skills, talents, and abilities. then we are naturally going to be building in resiliency from people that we bring into the teams that just have that as a natural ability, and we can learn from them and build on the strengths that they bring.
Thanks for sharing. That's lots of great points. We were chatting the other week around when you look at the 4 Ps of marketing, it feels nuts that there's not a fifth one of the people, because we know that that is definitely a skill set that you need and a mindset that you need within your team to be able to be resilient and not just a checkbox like you talked about, Sam, of something that we can have as a prereq going into the interview process. All right. So Jason, I'm coming to you next. I wanted to chat a little bit about how we future-proof our teams. As you were working through kind of structuring your team and as you're building your team and leading them, what does your team need to be able to grow and adapt to the new world?
Well, Neil, I love that you had to say in terms of that natural skill set that some people have around the resiliency, but I think there is a misconception maybe that either you have it or you don't. I think it can be fostered and it can be built. And I think the best place to build it is as a team. And I mean, I'll be selfish here for a minute. The reason I'm traveling is because I had the opportunity to come to Toronto the weekend of the Blue Jays watching them in the playoffs. But when I was thinking of my note around this question, it was if you look at any championship sports team, they've learned to be resilient to each other. And I think, teams need a strong culture. They need a strong environment that they can compete in. They also need the ability, I mean, Sam hit on this too, where there's the ability to experiment. So our job isn't to be right. Our job is to get it right. And in order to do that, there's going to be ups and downs and there's going to be lessons along the way. So I think teams just need that environment that allows them to have community as a team and work together as a team. And I think you can prove that resiliency is taught. Because if you look at it, pro athlete that goes into free agency after playing on a championship winning team, they're highly sought after. And the reason they're sought after is because they've lived and earned that experience of having to get through the tough times in order to win. And other teams want that. So beyond culture and teamwork, and I think of skills that people need and what leaders need to focus on. We're marketers. The technology is going to change, but our job is we need high levels of emotional intelligence, and that is also it's not like IQ, right? You can't develop IQ, you develop your emotional intelligence, and I think that's a foundational skill as marketers. And beyond that, it's business acumen. The accountants will tell you that businesses exist because of accounting, and the engineers will tell you that businesses exist for engineers. And it's only fair that as a marketer, I say, well, marketing is business. I'm covering a need or a desire in the market and finding a way to fulfill that need better than the competition. And a lot of us work in just telling that story and our businesses in to win. And we need to invest in business acumen with our teams and those foundations. I think the best marketing organization is probably has a lot of diverse backgrounds. Not everyone has a straight path to finding themselves in a marketing role. They come from some other place in the business, and that's beautiful. You just have to layer, in my opinion, you have to layer, good focus on building the collective acumen as business operators among the team as well.
Love that. I totally agree on the sport movie thing, and I'm staring at my wall full of sport quotes. It really is a good epitome of teamwork and being able to be resilient and take on challenges. All right, we're going to pivot a little bit into talking about building the ideal kind of team structure and ensuring that we have the future skills in mind. So I'd love to chat with you, Sam, about this next question here. Also, there's a couple of people from the team. We've gone through a huge restructure over the last couple of months. And it's hard to know what team, what structure you need to have in place to accomplish the goals, and to take more on as your individual kind of people leaders and looking with your scope. So I'd love to hear from the hiring side and from your recruitment perspective of what future skill gaps do you see that marketing leaders need to fill? And what are the things you look for when you're picking the right people in an interview scenario or things that you'd ask?
Yeah, so from the hiring perspective, the gaps that we're really seeing are around evolving skill sets. We're finding that leaders are looking for people who can do more with less. So, those who are comfortable with the data analytics, can adopt AI and new tech, and still tell authentic human stories. All of our briefings today, a lot of our briefings today from the marketing side, um, companies are asking for everyone to be able to do everything. So we're constantly asking clients to prioritize their needs for a role. So they're looking for someone who's exceptional at SEO, but then can also um, be steeped in the XM space as well. And just a lot of different skills are being asked of one person, which we tend to call a unicorn. Lots of unicorns are needed today. We're seeing a strong need for marketers who can both strategize and execute. So even C-suite level roles, looking for people that, although they may have about 20 years of experience and, steeped in strategy, they still need to be able to roll up their sleeves and execute. So agility is critical. Teams need to adapt quickly and collaborate across different functions and really just integrate the strategy across multiple different channels to continue to create the consistent consumer experience. Jason touched on this earlier regarding the need for high emotional intelligence, and I'm just going to build on that a bit. When it comes to looking for the right candidate, for me, it always comes back to the basics. So, soft skills, professionalism, emotional intelligence, like how did they show up? Are they prepared? How do they present themselves? Do they communicate clearly? And are they actually listening to the question that I'm asking? Those qualities say a lot about how they'll show up in a team meeting and a client meeting. And when interviewing, clear, concise answers with real examples about what you've done are super important. From an interviewer's perspective, when we're asking questions, it's not about what the team has done, but what did you do to contribute to the success? So we get a lot of that too when we're asking about, tell me about how you strategized a campaign for XYZ. It's a lot of, well, we did this, we did that. But it's really important to focus on what you did. What was your contribution to the success? And as interviewers, and this goes for if you're a hiring manager as well, just being comfortable with providing a bit of silence. We need to give candidates the space to think and be human about some of the interview questions. If you're asking for a situational question, it might take a minute to think of the best example to provide, and that's okay. It's much better to take a minute to think about the right answer versus kind of talking around in a circle and hoping that you're giving the right answer just off the bat. So just a reminder to just be human. We're having a conversation, and it's better to give them a bit of space. And at the end of the day, hiring really isn't just about ticking boxes. It's about understanding how people think, communicate, and navigate small moments of pressure.
Love that. Awkward silences aren't always awkward.
They don't have to be.
Right. I wanted to chat a little bit more to you, Jason. I know that you also have gone through some restructuring within your realm. And so I wanted you to chat through a little bit of what you looked at differently when you built your team out this time.
Yeah, I'm trying a different audio source, so hopefully this comes through a little bit clearer. Mark is giving me some feedback.
Way clearer.
Yeah, okay. We restructured recently in the fact that we have specific industries that we operate within, and we wanted to build a deeper rooted industry focused teams specifically in standalone business units. So a big piece of that for us was we needed to balance skill sets on the team. We needed to ensure that every business unit was set up for success. And then we just needed to lean into our culture. I think we have been, very intentional on hiring and living through our core values. And we have a term for this, and I'll actually just speak to Jessica's question. We have a term unicorn, and for us it means they have to have a high pod unicorn factor, which is high values. They need to directly live with our values, and so high culture and high performance. But I think with the restructure and the changing of the team, we needed to balance skill sets and then lean into our culture. We've been a fast growth company since day one. So we recognize that the job you're doing today is going to be vastly, probably more complicated, or more is going to be required of that role tomorrow, just as the organization grows and the complexity of the businesses grow. So for us, it was the opportunity to lean into that and say, hey, now that we have this, this fresh look and this fresh structure, let's lean onto our values, and let's start with a fresh whiteboard and go, what does this new situation provide us in terms of opportunity to look at our business differently, to support our clients in a different way, to ensure that we're not homogenizing process across different industries, and we're really just leaning into creating the value that clients are looking for us. And that that's a balance of learning the industries that we operate in, but also being the experts that are studying marketing and bringing new solutions to our clients too.
That's great. Thanks, Jason. Sam, I don't know if you wanted to jump in a little bit more on the interview questions when you're looking for that unicorn.
Yeah, it really kind of depends. I mean, something that, of course, you want to look for is what they've done in the past. A unicorn, it's tough to look for. It really just comes down to the type of role that you're looking to hire for, but asking the right situational questions and understanding their soft skills and what they've done in the past that will really match the role and what you're looking for. It's tough. There's many different ways in which you can do it, but it kind of comes down to what you're looking to get out of them. But situational questions and how they've handled things in the past can really lead you to understanding if they are the right match for the role.
Awesome. Thank you. And Katie, thanks for the question in the chat around burnout. It is definitely something that we chat through weekly, and anybody else can hop in on this answer too. I'll give a little perspective. The problems that we're solving when you go into a scenario that you're restructuring and taking on new responsibilities aren't simple ones. They're complex, big problems, and they're draining on the team. So I always love to encourage people to take a lap around the building, like make sure that you're leaving at lunch. It's not something that you're going to be able to solve, and getting away from your computer and knowing the right time to kind of unplug to be able to recharge around that, and have someone who can be an accountability partner to call you on that. So they can tell if you're kind of getting heated or haven't been able to take a break around it. And then I think your second part of it was saying no is like a must have, and ensuring we're not doing everything and failing, but really communicating around what the key priorities are that we can do and can do well, and what we have to be firm in saying no on, and getting leadership support on that too. Anybody want to jump in with any burnout tips? All right.
I think your job as a leader is to really be driving the strategy of the business. And, a key to strategy is not only just saying what you're saying yes to, but it's really being intentional what you're saying no to. And I think we need to fight to ensure that our teams are focused and their energy is going into the things that really matter. And I think it's a constant recalibration. And we need to, I I think the best experiences I have had is when there's now a partnership of understanding, okay, what are we really putting our energy into and why? Or are we just getting caught up in the work versus being, I think fighting the right things and the right resources. So I think that's my leadership, take on it is there's way more things that we could do than we have the ability to do. And I think it's good open collaboration of understanding, are we putting our time and energy into the right places? We have an internal way of talking about that. We call it $100 and 100 hours. There's only $100 and 100 hours where you put your time. And you're always going to waste a little bit. I think we definitely took on initiatives that maybe we shouldn't have when we were misguided at the time. But the more I think we can create space to check on that and push back on really where our time needs to be spent, it can potentially, I think, help fight off maybe the burnout piece from just too many things sort of happening at the same time.
It's great perspective. Thanks for sharing. All right, Neil, I wanted to chat with you a little bit about ensuring that we diversify skills without leaving anyone behind. So how do we take a look at reskilling, upskilling, building inclusive teams?
So when I read this question, again, it's the knee-jerk reaction. I think we as a community, as a society, we need to recognize that we have, there's a particular word that I'm thinking of, but it doesn't come to mind right now. But we need to acknowledge the past that we have been born into. So I've just been to a conference actually on Friday. It was a Disability Employment Awareness Month conference here in town in Calgary. And one of the phrases that was used was talking about like diversity debt, or like the debt that is in society. So historically, we as a community have used a medical model to look at other. And because of that medical model, we have continually placed weakness or a lack of something onto the individual. Whereas now we are trying to shift the model into like it's more of a social model of disability, or a social model of perceiving barriers. And so that is indicating that there are certain things that society creates and puts in other people's way that stops them from being successful. So prime example was given to me by Dr. Matthew Corkum. So he is an individual that identifies with a disability. If you search him up, he's got a brilliant website. I do recommend searching him. I believe he identifies as a person with cerebral palsy, and he took a vacation. So he lives he either lives in Calgary or he lives in Canmore, and has a PhD in meteorology. But because of the nature of his disability, people will prejudge him. And he is an individual that mountain bikes in the Rocky Mountains, and he skis. So when I think he took a vacation to Norway, and he basically had to prove to the individual that he was dealing with that he was capable and had these skills, even though every weekend he's in the Rocky Mountains doing exercise and activity that I can only dream of as an able-bodied person. So I think we need to acknowledge the world in which we live in, and we need to acknowledge the realities of that. So yes, we are definitely, as a society and as employers, I think we are playing a little bit of catch up. And that's nobody's fault on this call. It's nobody's fault. It's what we have been given to work with. So with that in mind, I think if we are focusing on, like, in terms of what type of things to reskill, placing it within a framework that I, again, only heard of at the weekend from one of my buddies in BC. He mentioned having a chat with somebody that's a member of the First Nations community there in the Okanagan Valley in BC. And it's, I've got to remember the phrase. No, this is why I write things down.
We
Relentless.
are with an awkward pause. Don't worry, Neil.
All right. I knew I'd need this, so it's in a page of like ridiculously long notes. It's relentless incrementalism. So this is the idea that we don't have to have all of the answers today or tomorrow. We can shift the needle incrementally, but it needs to be relentless. So if you are learning about onboarding techniques and learning about job coaching techniques that are used by people that support persons with disabilities, you're going to naturally be learning about different ways that the human brain works. So you're going to be learning about psychology. You're also going to be learning different communication techniques to try, not just with one individual, but with everybody in the community, because you never know when that's going to happen. And again, that talks to what Sam was talking about that ability to pivot so quickly that it becomes natural. Other things, like if you haven't done unconscious bias training, that's a brilliant place to start, because we don't know the barriers that we are placing in front of others, and whether that's neurotypical individuals, whether that's neurodiverse individuals. But it also allows us to sort of pause and think about, why am I thinking the way that I'm thinking? Is there a different way to do this? And that is part of innovation. And in terms of like building inclusion, it allows us to like relentlessly and incrementally learn new things without it feeling like we have to sit down and go and do like a master's degree or a PhD. And we're also then using skills that I think we as leaders are always using, like making sure that that people are looking at tasks as the task. They're not making mountains out of molehills, and that they are being realistic about it. But then that also builds in, I think, what Jason and Samantha are doing a really good job of conveying, is that the continual innovation becomes normal, it becomes natural, and also that culture of learning is inbuilt, because if you're learning continually, you're also able to undergo change management more effectively, because change is just a natural part of the environment, and adaptability and adapting to new things just becomes the norm. So anything new that's put on the table, metaphorically, is viewed without that extra layer of suspicion or criticality. It's more like a, oh, yeah, well, let's give that a go. And there's that openness to try. And again, it speaks to what Jason was talking about, that ability to try and to fail and to try. And actually, it's Samantha, you mentioned it as well. My apologies. So yeah, by doing that relentless incrementalism, we're building that resiliency, we're building that adaptability, and then that also allows us to bring a different perspective and diverse ways of thinking, diverse ways of doing something into our workforce. And then when we do so, we're undergoing processes and techniques that also allow us to be just as adaptable with the clients that we're serving.
Love that. Now it's officially also in my messy notebook as a quote to have handy. So thank you for that. All right, I'm gonna chat with you a little bit more here, Jason. We talked about it with burnout a little bit, but obviously in both of our industries, or all of our industries, there's a lot of fun that's going on within the marketing world, but also a lot of pressure around being able to be agile and pivot. What are a couple of strategies that you implement to ensure your team is set up to succeed and to handle the pressure and kind of find the balance in the day?
Yeah. I think one of the things I mentioned kind of off the top, of our job is not to be right, but our job is to get it right. I think is a big piece of I think what's required for that is decisiveness and the willingness to move forward. That relentless incrementalism is awesome. It's the whole fighting for progress over perfection. And I think it's being intentional with the operating system of your business. We are strong proponents of the entrepreneurial operating system, EOS system, as a business, and we've leaned very heavily into ensuring that operating system or cycle is built into every department. A standardized agenda for every team's weekly meetings, standardized pulse on how we approach, resource planning or quarterly planning and annual planning. And that constant, I think, push to ensure that we are identifying the right issues and we're putting our energy into the right areas. You know, and it comes back to, I think, you know, the fighting to take the low impact things off of our list and focusing on the really where our time and energy needs to be, which should be definitely linked directly to the strategy of what we're trying to do. And I think that's as much as a personal exercise as I think it is a leadership exercise on how we operate, you know, our teams. But I have found, and I believe we've found, that having that very strong structure on how we operate as a team, I think allows us to process the issues faster, identify, you know, where we need to be putting our time and energy, and then rallying our team around that. And as I mentioned, it's the same for every department, as much as it is the same for how we as a leadership team also organize ourselves.
One of my mentors used to say, no agenda, no attenda for meetings. And it always really landed to add some structure in. But I think as a leader, it's something you absolutely have to be ruthless in ensuring that you're respecting people's time when they're committing it to you. Great answer.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we have a term that we use is the presidential agenda. And everyone should have one, which is look at your week, understand what your objectives are, understand what, you know, what are, you know, strategic objectives we might be working towards as a business. And does your week align with those strategic objectives? And are you in meetings that you shouldn't be in and being willing to not be there to go and move on? So we kind of challenge everyone that, you know, what's your presidential agenda? Are you in the most important places at the most important time? Or are you allowing your calendar to be taken over by others?
Great point. Great point. Okay, we're going to pivot into talking a little bit of now we've gone through recruiting and kind of painting that team of what we'd like from a resilient team and future proofing. Now we can chat about how we keep them because we know retention is definitely the new acquisition of keeping your team once you have them. So Sam was really interested in hearing from you. What's the main reason that you see that people are looking to make a change or leave a company? And what do candidates care about? How can companies retain them overall? Would love to hear from you on that.
Yeah, so of course, when talking to many candidates, there's so many different things that people are looking for. And typically, when I am talking to someone, it's because I've reached out to them. The bulk of what I do is headhunting. So these people aren't always actively looking for a new position. What people are really valuing today is flexibility. And when I get on the phone with someone, I always ask them at the end of the call, like, what's most important to you in your next career move? And when people are interested in talking to me about an opportunity, typically a lot of it is they've kind of feel like they have plateaued in their current role. They're looking to grow and continue their skills. There's not a lot that's there for them in their current role. When it comes to flexibility, it's the number one thing that people are looking for. And that's from entry level roles, recent grads up to C-suite level. People aren't anti-office. And I know a lot of organizations have really moved back to being hybrid or full-time in office. And we're finding that people aren't reluctant to go into the office. People don't want to spend 3 hours a day commuting anymore. And I think prior to COVID, there were, especially in the Toronto area and the bigger cities across Canada, people do spend more time commuting. But people are really valuing their time and their balance. So for companies trying to attract and retain top talent, flexibility and trust go a long way. You know, if someone's performing and hitting their goals, it shouldn't matter if they need to step out and pick up their kid at 3 p.m. People want to feel like they're trusted by you if they're performing and doing well. Transparency is another huge factor we're noticing. So, if you're offering someone a bonus or you're talking about it throughout the interview stages, like there may be a bonus involved, you have to be clear about what it takes to actually achieve the bonus. So deliver on your word. Candidates do notice the follow through on that. And of course, given today's crazy market, job stability has always mattered and it still matters. So there's been a few conversations I've had lately with candidates where we're talking about a specific position and they notice that there isn't a ton of an online presence for the organization. So people are cautious about making a move unless they feel confident that the organization is solid and authentic. So a strong online presence helps build that trust, especially now when candidates are skeptical of AI generated content and, is this actually like a real opportunity type thing. So they want to see that your company is real, consistent, and human. But in today's day and age, flexibility is huge.
That's a great point. Thanks for the tips. Okay, we have time for one more question, and then we're gonna pivot into some Q&A. We've been answering a few throughout, but there's a couple Mark's kind of been jotting down, or I have, to make sure that we can loop back at the end, and then we'll kind of leave you with some parting words. So I wanted to come to you, Neil, in looking for some advice of ensuring our talent strategy is inclusive and resilient. Especially when we're trying to retain that diverse team. So once we've made our team inclusive, how do we keep it this way? How do we make sure that they want to stay a part of our team?
I think a lot of what I'm going to say echoes exactly what Sam has just said. It's that transparency and that follow through. So for persons that have asked for adaptations at work, whether neurotypical, neurodivergent, person with disability, disclosed or not, it doesn't matter. If somebody is coming to you as a leader and is asking for something to make their life, well, not their life, but their job a little easier, just a little adaptation that is going to allow them to work within their core strengths to a greater degree, we need to see that as a trust exercise. So I think a lot of us are already doing that, but I want to reinforce it. So the onboarding process is the moment where employer and employee are building trust. And the easiest way to do that is with that follow through, with that transparency. Also, from my point of view, if you are intentional about being diverse and using diverse points of view in your approach to your business, then that needs to be known throughout the community. And it was actually something that Caleb, my wife, reminded me of when we were chatting about some of these topics previously. And it's, if I can find my note, because I want to quote her exactly because it's perfect. It's the concept of communities support the businesses that show up for their communities. So thinking very critically and very intentionally about how, like, what are the connections that you have with the local community around you? Like, is it just within the marketing world? Are you connecting with employment service providers? Like, how wide is that network that you can then rely on when things get a little trickier? And in terms of like building the trust, if you are showing that you are welcoming people into your team because of their strengths, because of their talents, and utilizing that, and thus are stating 25% of the Canadian population is important to me, the next generation of workers is taking note of that. The other thing that I see from chatting with people at university and just within the wider world is there can be a preconceived notion that DEI, like diversity, equity, inclusion, that we are moving away from it, or we're not moving away from it. We may be rephrasing it, but it is always there because it's been there for 2,000 years, like even further. So we as communities value that. And when you've got 25% of the Canadian population that 27% actually, I do apologize, if you are including those in your workforce, if you are including those diverse perspectives and way of doing things, you are telling the community that you are asking to support you as a business, this is important to me. And then that is also a way to spread the word to that community. Like with 27% of people, they have families, they have friends, they've gone to university, where including diverse approaches to education is fundamental. Like my wife, she's doing a postdoctoral fellowship. She went on a course to explain how she does that. She does, like with every application she does, that is a huge component. So I want to reinforce that it's not going away. So if we are spending the time to learn those communication skills, to learn those job coaching techniques for the onboarding process, to follow through with intentionality, then we are telling employees that this is a great place to work. So you become a place of work, so you don't have to work so hard to source the talent. And it's more likely that you're going to find those unicorns outside of the data set. But you are building, again, an extra layer of resiliency, because you then have a community that when times get tough, you can spread the word, and that community is going to show up for you because you have brought something that is a value add to the community that you serve.
That's great. Thanks, Neil. All right, we have one around AI. So we touched on it briefly. I think, Sam, you brought it into the conversation that we started discussing it. Jason, I'd love to hear from you around with AI automating more tasks. Do we think that it will change how we look at traditional roles, or how do we look at that as a function within marketing?
Yeah, I think 1,000%. The traditional role of the web developer, the graphic designer, the content writer, the editor, all of that is going to change and be disrupted. So I think as more of the technical things are being executed through technology, what's required now of us as marketers is the critical thinking and the analysis. And it goes back to that note I made around EQ and empathy. And I mean, at the end of the day, our job is to help create an emotional connection to the product or the service that we deliver to its target audience. There's far more to it than that. But at the end of the day, I mean, our job is to be storytellers. And I think those skills won't necessarily go away. But I think the critical thinking and the analysis that will be required of marketing teams now, today and moving forward will continue to be the same. But at the same time, we love to get technical. And our job is to be able to communicate that and simplify that for the other business units around us. So if we're an internal marketing team, we need to be able to distill that information into actionable insights that other department can take or can glean from. And as an agency, it's the same thing with our clients. I mean, our job is to stay on the curve, try to be ahead of the curve, and bring those solutions and those ideas back to our clients. And we have to be good communicators, because we have to simplify all of that technical jargon into the things that matter most to them, without getting ourselves caught in these. So I think strong communication skills, strong EQ. Yes, we're going to need the technical expertise, and that's always going to be redefined. But I think those are pivotal. As Neil was talking, I'm reminded of Daniel Pink, as an author, wrote a book, Drive, and he researched the three things that we need in our careers in order to be fulfilled, and it's autonomy, mastery, and purpose. If we look at retention and if we look at for our teams, we all need to have some degree of connection to the purpose of the organization. And it has to align with the purpose that we're trying to live our lives through and our goals for our careers. And then autonomy and mastery. Autonomy is just give me the rules, give me the tools, and get out of my way. Have the trust. Let me go to the doctor's appointment. Let me leave at 3 and go pick up my kids. Like, get out of my way, and I'll do the job, and I'll do it well. And the mastery is really the space to become great at something. And most people don't get up in the morning and go, I really want to be mediocre at my job today, and I'm not going to learn anything. Most people want to be good at what they're trying to do and build a career on. And I think if we can, as leaders, foster environments that allow that the continuous learning and that curiosity to be there, we'll learn from each other. And as a result, you have a very fulfilled, team. And those three elements will be a key to retention.
That's great. Thank you. I think we have just one question that we missed in the chat, but Mark or Derek, jump off mute if there's more than one there. I just see Trevor's, that's kind of the last one.
There's one from Jessica. I don't know if we covered it. It's around the interview questions when hiring for Unicorn.
I think, yeah, we covered a little bit. Jason chimed in and a bit from Sam. If there's any others, feel free to pop the advice in the chat too. And then around Trevor's question, so anchored in to you, Neil, and then anybody else feel free to jump in as well. But talking about change management and resiliency, have you ever worked with ADKAR before? Being awareness, desire, knowledge, ability, and reinforcement. I think it fits really well with the relentless incrementalism and how to build resiliency into culture step by step.
Yeah, I read that comment and I actually wrote it down in my my notebook here. The reason I like it is because there's a framework that I also teach to employers, and it's called the 4 pillars of inclusive hiring, or inclusive workplaces actually. And it's commitment, readiness, recruitment, retention. So like the awareness piece, that's part of the readiness piece. The desire is the commitment. You've got to be connected. And again, piggybacking on what Jason's just said, you've got to have the ideological connection to something in order to want to go through with it. Yeah, the knowledge talks to that readiness piece, being aware of things to implement into the business, like being aware of what you're writing on job descriptions, how you're formulating your interview questions, like how you're overcoming those unconscious biases, but also like ideologically remaining professional, but also building that relationship in the interview to get to know somebody better, and where your comfort level is on that continuum. And then yeah, the reinforcement I think goes back to a lot about what we're talking about, and that's also part of the retention piece. It's walking the talk and being intentional with what you're doing and supporting people in the ways that that Jason and Samantha have suggested. So I like that framework because it's very useful outside of the getting like being ready, bringing people in, and then keeping them there. I like the framework because it's a framework that we can utilize in whatever project we're doing, whatever like day we're in, whatever week we're in. And yeah, I do see a lot of overlaps with that 4 pillars model as well. So Trevor, thank you so much for putting that in the chat.
I want to say thank you to all of you, panelists and the attendees, for joining on this today. Derek, if you want to queue up the last couple slides there. This has been super interesting. I think the conversation around people and personnel and building a team for resiliency is really something that I don't spend enough time thinking about, for sure. And in past roles, there's various levels of of that sort of planning that happens. And so I really appreciate the chance to listen to all your perspectives, and the diversity of the perspectives I think is really interesting. So thanks to all of you. Derek, you want to wrap up?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, great conversation, you guys. That was excellent. Just to remind everyone, if you have 10, 15 minutes, we'd really love your insights. We have this survey here. You can scan the QR code, take you 10, 15 minutes. And this is going to go towards the 2025 Trends Survey. And we have that Trends event happening too, which is, where is it? Wednesday, November 19th, at Studio Bell or National Music Center, I believe we're calling it now. And you can get your tickets over at the calgarycma.com website. And of course, there's still a lot going on for Strategy Week. This was our first webinar of many to come for the rest of the week here. So if you haven't signed up for the rest of them, here's the QR code to do so. And that should take you to the events page on our website as well. Looking forward to see you all in the other events coming up here, including 2 in-person events as well, one workshop and one panel discussion over at Platform Calgary. And yeah, I think that's it. That's all for us. Yeah. So yeah, thank you so much to the group here, Neil, Jason, Samantha, Kate, for moderating this discussion. A lot of great insights, and thank you everyone for attending. Really appreciate it.